Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Katherine.Kelly. I am the founder of the Alignable Soul of Healing Collaborative Group. And as you may have seen, I've been doing these interviews with some of the members of the group as a form of collaboration to help people understand the nuances of some parts of the fields that may not be that understood. And so to me, part of collaboration is understanding what each other does. And so this is just an opportunity for me to not only have a lot of fun having conversations with people in the group, but basically help you understand how you can collaborate with other professionals as well. So, this is not about being on two sides of of a fence. It's really how do we break through that fence and collaborate, whether you are a traditionally based practitioner or a holistically based or anywhere in any perimeter of that. I think it's just really important to know what each other does. So thank you for watching and listening. So I'm very excited today to talk to a colleague. He joined the group fairly early on. His name is Steven Brownlow. I want him to tell you a little bit about his website, because when I was reading through his website and understanding why he named it the way he did, I loved it because, again, I love meaning behind words. So I'm going to have him kind of talk about that. And we're going to keep this very casual, but I'm going to actually hand it over to Stephen to tell a little bit about what he does. And and what I would encourage is, if any of this information resonates with you, you can put information about it on the post for Alignable, and then he could probably respond, or I will forward information to him if you have questions. So I'm going to hand it over to you briefly and just kind of tell us who you are, what you do, what's traditional about what you do, what's not so traditional, and we'll go from there.
Wow. Okay. So thank you for all of that, Catherine. I should say I'm a trained clinical psychologist, and nothing I do looks like traditional clinical psychology. I think really what happened is, at the time that I was a kid, I don't know about you, but at the time, at least I was a kid and trying to figure out I'll put it this way: if I in my 20s had said, well, you know what, I have this weird power gift, maybe sometimes curse, to know what people are feeling before they even know what they're feeling. And not only that, but with a little training, I know how to figure out what their blocks are and what they would be if they remove their blocks. And I have the power in my voice somehow to create the state of consciousness within them that will release that block.
Lovely.
Okay. If I'd said that and said, now what job would I take? I mean, people would have looked at me like I'm crazy, because that's not the way people talked in the 70s, 80s. And so I ended up becoming a therapist, and I tried to sort of look like I fit in. And now I'm not in my 20s anymore, or 30s, and it's like I don't care if I fit in.
Yeah, and good for you that you don't. That's how I look at my work too. So good for you. So tell me how you do fit in and how you don't fit in.
Well, I do what I just said, but what I've learned over time is that I'm, because I'm really sensitive, that's who I work with the best. And so when I just, and it's who I am, it's who my clients were. And what I sort of realized over time is that really what my job is to help empathic healers, coaches, counselors, entrepreneurs to become the people that they were meant to be, so that they can change the world the way they were meant to. And so that's what I do, and that's what I focus on. And so, in terms of all the kind of standard stuff of, oh, we're going to provide therapy, we're going to get people from, stressed or traumatized up to what I'd like to call hoping and coping. It's like, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm hoping and coping is sort of my beginning point a lot of times, and what I want to do is get people to uh, compassion, gratitude, um, peace, because that's where because that is the language of the soul, and that is where we start finding out what we're here to do.
Mhm.
And so the question is, what do I have to do to get them there? And what I have to do to get them there is always about releasing emotional blocks, because that's what really keeps us back. And that's where I spent, I don't know, probably 30 years studying how to deal with that.
So if you were to, and I look at this from, I'm being a psychologist and also being someone who, like you, doesn't fit in any box. I understand what you're saying, but if you can maybe give an example of, okay, so who is someone who would come to you? How would they present in the beginning, and where would you get them to? And you could pick any example if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. This one just, she kind of crossed my radar again recently, but the first time I saw her was in, I want to say maybe 2014, 15. I was trying to teach therapists how to see clients the way I did, basically. And I what I remember about her at that point was that she didn't even see that she was sensitive, really, particularly. But what I remember is that I'd given her an exercise to do, and then she kind of disappeared for like a week, and it was like, where did you go? I sent her an email. Where did you go? What's going on? And oh yeah, I'll be back. But just something came up. Excuse me, something came up. Um, she writes this really beautiful thing in the post in the group about how she's busy thinking about or listening to, like, this thing maybe on headphones or something that I had recorded in the group, and she's walking through the forest, and all of a sudden the trees look greener, and it's like, okay, I don't know exactly what that is, but that's a good shift. Thank you for telling me. The next time I run across her is probably 2019, early 2019. She kind of appears again as she's ready for something else. She's in another group. By now, she's having problems with, I don't know, like, it sounds like maybe a frozen foot or something. It's like she's not saying anything about it, but this has been a problem for a couple of years, and she's kind of keeping it quiet. And I'm doing something in the group, and it's some kind of an emotional release, and her foot unfreezes, and it's like it was 5 years ago, and it's like, I don't know what just happened, but something clearly just happened. And so she tells me about it afterwards. She tells me that the foot was frozen. It's like, okay, fine. That's nice, Laura. I'm glad that, well, in 2013, she kind of appears again. She rolls back around again. And it's like, well, I don't know. I'm needing something, but I don't know what I'm needing. I've been putting together a lot. I've been doing the work that you suggested back in, the teens, back in 19, but now I'm ready for something else. Okay, fine. Here,
And this was
I get
2023.
this was 2023, yeah.
Okay,
And
last
so
year.
it's like, okay, yeah, fine. She disappears again. She disappears. We're 2/3 of the way through a program, and she disappears. And it's like, okay, I don't have any idea what's happened to her, but we're going to see. Cousin commits suicide.
Hmm.
Okay. And it's all the family drama that you'd expect. I mean, it's people blaming the victim, people blaming each other, people blaming themselves. It's just drama. Everybody's acting out. It's hooked everybody. And she says it hooked me too. It hooked me. What I started feeling was this sense of hopelessness that was older than I was. And I didn't know what it was, but I realized it wasn't mine and I didn't want to deal with it. And so I did, but I had learned all the things that I had learned from you over the years, and I had all the ingredients. So I released it. I got the whole thing resolved, and all of a sudden I'm coming out the far side of this, and I'm realizing, you know what? I've had all these kind of half plans for a long time that I've never put into motion. It's time to start doing that. And I've noticed there's about 500,000 people who live in my area that really need what I'm offering. And what it's really about is, it really is about this hopelessness. It's like, there's people around here who have a lot of power that they're just not using. And I don't understand. I need to do something about that. I need to help all these people find the power that they have to do the things that they want to be doing. And so all of a sudden, it's just like it all channeled into that one thing. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but in some ways you helped her open up whatever her life potential was.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing. That is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's a forget hoping and coping. I don't want to be, the way I look at therapy, and I know, being a therapist, the way I look at standard models of therapy, it's like, life is hell, get used to it.
Right.
And it's like, no, we can create our own hells, but we can create our own heaven too. I would much rather do the latter, and I would rather teach people to do the latter.
Well, and I love what you're saying, and also I resonate a lot with what you are, doing, because even on my website, I say it's not enough for me to help someone heal. I want to help them evolve, because do I want to get them just back to where they were? No, I want to get them further. And that's my mission. And it sounds like really that's very similar, because, and I'm going to ask you a question in a second that I think is going to open up a whole other part of what you do. But I think that's the whole point, is that a lot of the traditional therapies might get you back sort of to where you were. And yes, you may be changing thoughts, you may be changing some of that, but that doesn't mean that you're feeling this forward motion. It doesn't feel, I think for a lot of people, I think it's about many of the practices that are out there about symptom management. And so I'm very much with you with this. I want to weave in the soul, because you mentioned the soul as you were talking, and I'm all about soul work. And that's why I called this the Soul of Healing Collaborative Group, because I really have this, it's not just an idea to me, it's a reality that, there's these 3 levels of healing. And yes, we have to do the intellectual healing, we have to do the emotional healing, but basically that those 2 may not be enough. Because if something like this woman that you mentioned said, wow, there's something happening that's older than me, well, of course, there's something much bigger. So tell us what it is about the soul that you weave in, or how you conceptualize it, what you use the word. So help us understand how you integrate that.
I see that to me, the soul is, there's a part of us. I think about it in terms of sort of in a spiritual way, I guess. We have ego and soul. The ego is basically our history. It's the things that we've learned. It's the things it's our temperament too. So it's not all learned, but it's basically our biological body, our thoughts, all of this stuff. It's at best, it's at the I guess Ken Wilber's the one who said the rational level. We've got the irrational, we've got the rational.
Mm-hmm.
The soul is at the transrational level. It's above rationality. You can't really describe it. You can't, if you start to define it, you're not going to get, but it contains the blueprint of who we're meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if things work out the way we're supposed to, that's what the soul is. It's like it carries the blueprint. And so the question to me is sort of, what is it that this person's blueprint is? If we can release whatever their problem is, or we can resolve whatever the block is, you know, and people don't have just one. I mean, they have series of them, and it's like to me, my metaphor is like an archaeological dig. It's like you get down to a level, you get down with like spoons and brushes, and you get down, and finally you find something, and you very carefully dig it out. Well, once you dig it out, there's a whole bunch of stuff at that level.
Oh yeah.
And then it's, once the first one's out, the rest of them are pretty easy. But now all of a sudden you're back to spoons and brushes again, going down to find the next level. And so you've got level after level after level, because things just get really old. And when you start digging through this stuff, I mean, there's, you go back to when I was a young kid, but then, you go to ancestral stuff, you go to past lives, you go to whatever else, you go to evolution. And there's a lot of evolutionary stuff we've got baked into us that's just like this woman talking about hopelessness. I mean, that's an evolutionary thing.
And archetypal and continuous and all of those things. Yes.
and this is diversion here for a second, but it's like right now, as a professional, I'm having to, do my CEs for my 2 years renewal for my licenses and all of this kind of stuff. And it's really interesting to me. I could look for a course on grieving, and I could find 24. I could look for a course on shame, and I could probably find at least half a dozen. If I look for a course on helplessness, I'm not going to find one.
Right.
But if I look for courses on symptoms of helplessness, and overwhelm, so all the stuff on depression, all the stuff on suicide, all the stuff on anxiety, all the stuff on intimate partner violence, all this, I just blah 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 blah. I mean, it's like I'm slammed with symptoms, but nothing about the cause.
Yeah,
not a thing I can learn about the cause. And it's like, to me, that is the problem with the field that I'm trained in.
Well, and you and I are talking the same language, because and this because we've had conversations about this, but this book that I just wrote about kind of excavating and realizing that modern medicine, Hippocrates, basically the father of medicine, which 400 BC said the soul is present in every single symptom and every single organ of the body. Carl Jung said the same thing as one of the founding fathers of psychology. And yet that depth and the inclusiveness of everything that happens as a human is nowhere to be found, including, like you said, the origin of a lot of these mental health concerns. So, I love what you're saying about this, because, and I know that we are very much on the same page. I want to throw this in there because I think it would be very interesting for you to explain the name of your website, because when I was reading that, it was just really nice to read the name and where that came from. And I think that might help illuminate some things too. I don't know if you're comfortable doing that.
Yeah, sure. So the name of my website is Adept Psychology, ADEPT. It was actually, I should say, and I don't think this is on the website now, but there's actually the sort of the interesting story. Somebody was trying to tell my older daughter was trying to tell me at one point, well, you need a name, you need a tag name for this. I mean, everybody's heard of CBT. Everybody's, what are your initials? Well, it's emotion therapy. Well, ET is not a good thing. So what is it? Well, it's emotional processing therapy. Well, okay, so EPT, that's nice, but that's either inept or adept. So let's be adept. Let's not be inept. So I thought, well, okay, so adept. So I came at it actually came out with an acronym, but then I wanted to check it. What's adept? What does adept exactly mean? What are all the things? Well, it comes from Latin. It comes from adeptus, and the adeptus was the master alchemist
Right.
who who turns who turned lead into gold, or turned people into the best versions of themselves.
Yes.
It basically, he aligned them with their soul's blueprint for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, no, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
That's who I want to be. And so that was just, as soon as I had that word, it was like, oh yeah, that's exactly, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. I want that. I
Yeah.
want that name for myself. That's the site.
Well, and see, I love when someone, number one, I love it when you come up with something and then you do the research and it's like it's aligned anyway, So I loved,
Mm-hmm.
that about, what I was reading. And again, what do all of us want to be? We want to be adept at life. How do we
Absolutely.
how do we stumble over the human condition? Well, it's because we haven't cleaned out the parts and pieces that have fogged us up and, or clogged up our souls or whatever it might be. And so it's fun to hear another professional doing something, that you've created in your own way, but that can serve so many people, because this is the other thing I love about collaboration is that it really isn't about finding all of these people who do the same thing. It's about, wow, okay, you do something different. How can we know what you do so that the people that, well, they're not a good fit for my practice, but wow, they'd be a really good fit for yours. That's how we collaborate as far as I'm concerned, is getting to know one another, of course, without judgment, but without ego of thinking we need to keep them for ourselves. That's something that I've heard from practitioners is like, oh, I don't want to refer out because, whatever is pushing their own buttons. So, I think it's a big part of collaboration. How do you like to collaborate with other professionals? Like what would be helpful for you? And I'm thinking medical professionals or other professionals, like how would you like to, both in an ideal world and in reality, how does that work for you, and what would you wish for?
Hmm. Boy, that's a good question. Um, Ideally, I think there's a lot of things that medical professionals could do, and unfortunately, I think, you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of the problems with psychology right now are that we've taken on the medical model, and unfortunately, the medical model has become very much about symptom management, and not about it's not about healing. It's not even about curing anymore. They don't even believe in cures. They believe in remissions. And so it would be, to the extent that I've found some holistic docs who are really good at um, taking care of people and sort of healing things up. They're very easy to collaborate with.
Mhm.
To the extent that it's sort of a standard trained medical doctor who wants to treat symptoms, it's really hard to find common ground with them, to be honest.
Right.
In terms of everybody else, it's like, gosh, yes, I'm the, uh, if somebody has a talent, boy, let's put them to work.
Yeah.
I want you taking care of your people.
Right. I'm going to throw out some statistics because it's fascinating to me, both in writing this book, but also just I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to spirituality and wanting to know what people are thinking. And there was a study that was published last year, July of last year, that basically 83% of American adults believe in the soul, but they don't know what to do with it. So we know that, okay, this needs to, like, the word itself needs to get back out into the public. But the other research that's really fascinating is that at least 85% of those who, and this research has been replicated for probably 15, 20 years, but at least 85% of people wish their practitioners, and I'm talking medical practitioners, would talk about some form of spirituality in their medical appointments. And when I first was reading this about 22 years ago, the research was that less than 10% do. And what's fascinating is it stayed consistent that at least 85, 90% of people want to talk with the practitioners, their medical practitioners about spirituality, but the number that do has shrunk. So it's really fascinating because to me, and I think you would say the same thing, we're going in the wrong direction if we were going to treat the whole soul. And like you said, we've got this movement of, getting more and more like narrow with what the healing practices are about, even though, like, I don't agree with you, it's not really healing anymore, it's management. And so do you have any recommendations? And I know this is like one of those $1 zillion questions. Let me ask it differently. In an ideal world, if you wanted to say one thing about what you wish would happen in the healing world for either practitioners to understand or the public as they watch this, what would that be? And I know that's a huge question.
Don't confuse religious belief with spirituality. I think that would be the first thing. Yeah. I hear people, one thing I do, I know a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff, and a lot of them, they see their target market as Christian, say, and it's like, that's fine. But, and I remember asking one of them this question. It's like, what would you do if somebody came in and they said they weren't Christian? What if they said they were Muslim? But they were a great fit for everything that you were trying to do. Well, I just couldn't work with them. Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, I mean, excuse me, but that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. To me, that doesn't make any sense. It's like people are people, and I talk about spirituality all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing is that that the way I talk about spirituality, it doesn't matter what people's religious beliefs are. They could identify with something that I'm saying because mm-hmm. it's just because the truth is the truth. The truth is the truth, no matter what all the ways it's dressed up are, and all the particular cultural artifacts and all of that kind of stuff, and historical artifacts. The truth is the truth. And if you just talk about the truth, then people understand, oh yeah, that's true.
Right. Well, and it goes back to that everybody on this planet has a soul. And so it doesn't matter, like you said, what it's dressed up in terms of beliefs or whatever. It's still that essence of who they are that still wants to meet their potential. To me, that is what life is about. And like you said, it really does not matter what rubric they come from. It's really, it's bringing forth that inner wisdom, that potential. And so, yeah, that was a $1 zillion question, and I appreciate you tackling it a little bit.
I mean, that's the best. Yeah, that's the best I could come up with. But it's right. But I think that's to me, as someone who does talk about the soul a lot and who talks about spirituality a lot, I've never. I mean, it's like it doesn't matter whether somebody's a Christian or Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist or Jew or pagan or they don't believe in God at all. Mm-hmm. They're just completely atheistic. It doesn't matter, because you can say the same thing to all of them and everybody will, oh yeah, that I understand that. That's true.
Yeah.
And they can align with that.
Yeah, everybody wants to evolve. Everybody wants to feel better than they do 2 minutes ago and 6 minutes ago. So it's
absolutely
everybody on this planet. So, well, this was fun. And do you have anything else that you want to say? And then I definitely want you to talk about how people can contact you, whether it's website, phone number, whatever you want to throw out there.
Yeah, my website is probably the best place to contact me. It is adeptpsychology.com. Uh, the contact page is down, but on at least one of those pages, there's a link to get to me. We had a, I don't know, something about the website just went crazy, and it just, all the forms fried. And so it was
Modern
like, well, it was time.
technology.
Yeah, it was time to rebuild it all anyway and say what I would update it to what I wanted it to say anyway. So I did that. That's probably the best way to get it, because frankly, I mean, I have a phone, but I don't answer it because it's always sort of on vibrate because I'm usually talking to somebody.
Exactly.
And so
Well,
the easiest way to reach me is probably email. I don't know. You had another question in there, but I don't
it
remember
was
what
if
it
there was
was. I'm
any
sorry.
other word of wisdom or parting thought or anything else you wish people would know or wanted to say.
I think the one thing, yeah, I have one thing that we didn't talk about, that I want to say. Everything people think they know about emotions is wrong.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
If you once you realize that, it's like, it's all folk wisdom. It's all wives' tales, and it's really, if you one reason that I think that we do such a poor job of therapy is that we don't understand how emotions really work. Even even the people who are researching it research very small segments of it and haven't really seen how the whole puzzle fits together. But if you look at how the whole puzzle fits together, the reason we don't understand emotions is that the word emotion really, it really means at least 6 or 7 different things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand that each of those 7 different things has a different meaning, a different etiology, that it appears at a different time in development, and if you understand that about it, and you understand that what's true about one type of emotion is not true about any of the other types, once you start understanding that, then everything makes a whole lot more sense.
Sure.
Then it's about learning what to do with this particular type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
And that,
absolutely. And I totally agree with you. And also I talk a lot about emotions being, again, generated from the soul, whether it's the woundedness of the soul or it's just information. It's information to get us from one point to another, but a lot of people shove them down or quiet them with medications or whatever. And I'm not against medication. It's just they're useful, that we would not be having an emotion if it wasn't there for us to serve us in some way. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but that's kind of where I try to go with people too.
yeah, we can say there. I would say that at some point at some point they're not even, at some point they're useful in telling you where you're stuck, where you're attached. And it's like, if you realize that they're about where you're attached. To me, I differentiate feelings and emotions,
I do too.
and a feeling is the voice of your soul, and it's like all the emotion stuff. Let's figure out what the attachment is, and let's
Right.
move past that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a very similar idea about that. And my one of my other books, that's exactly what I did was I laid out the difference because I'm right there with you as far as, I think people misunderstand emotions. So
I think we do, and I think if we get that part right, I think we'll be way ahead of this.
right.
I think the faster we can help people with that, the quicker we can get on the backside of whatever we're going through right now, which is, it's interesting. It's interesting, and it needs to happen, and
Yeah.
and like a lot of other things in my life, it's like, well, it'd be nice if it would move a little faster, but it's like it's not going
Right.
to.
Yeah. Divine timing. It's all going to go how it's supposed to.
It's all going to go however it goes.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine on the other side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Stephen, it has been a joy to talk with you. And like I said earlier, that if any of you want to contact him and, did not hear the information about where to contact him, you can put it in the message boxes and I'll forward the information. But adeptpsychology.com, is that okay? So
That's
perfect.
correct.
You can find him there. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to talk with you, and I'm sure we could talk for hours.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. All right, Alignable folks, you have a wonderful day and many more interviews coming soon. And I hope you found this helpful. Have a great day. Bye-bye.